The knife was already slicing through the air. Maya Thompson saw it happening in slow motion. The silver blade catching the afternoon sunlight as it headed straight toward the old Korean woman's chest. The restaurant exploded into chaos. Tables crashed. People screamed. But Maya didn't think. She just moved. Her body slammed into the elderly woman, knocking her sideways just as the blade whistled past. So close Maya felt the wind of it against her cheek. They both crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs. The attacker, a man in a black hoodie, stumbled forward from the missed strike, his eyes wild with rage behind his mask. "You shouldn't have done that, girl," he hissed, turning the knife toward Maya now. Maya's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst through her ribs. She covered the old woman's frail body with her own, waiting for the pain, waiting for everything to end right there on the cold tiles of Rosie's diner, the small restaurant where she'd worked for 3 years just to pay her rent. But the pain never came. Instead, she heard a voice, cold, sharp, and terrifying, cut through the screaming. "Touch her, and you won't leave this building alive." Now, before we continue, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Are you Team Brave Maya or Team Mysterious Stranger? And don't forget to subscribe to this channel to support our growth. We've got more incredible stories coming your way. Let's go back 6 hours earlier, to when Maya's day started like any other ordinary Tuesday. Maya Thompson was 24 years old, but sometimes she felt like she'd lived 100 lifetimes. She woke up that morning in her tiny apartment, so small that her bed touched one wall and her kitchen counter touched the other. The paint was peeling. The heater only worked when it felt like it. But it was hers, and she'd worked hard to keep it. She looked at herself in the cracked bathroom mirror as she brushed her teeth. Dark circles under her brown eyes. Her black hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She didn't look like much, she thought. Just another tired waitress in a city full of them. "You got this, Maya," she whispered to her reflection. "Just another day. Just another shift." But Maya was wrong. This wasn't going to be just another day. She grabbed her worn-out jacket, the one with the broken zipper she kept meaning to fix, and headed out into the crisp morning air. The bus was late, as always. Maya didn't mind. She used the time to count the money in her wallet. $37. That had to last her 4 more days until payday. Her stomach growled. She'd skipped breakfast again. But that was okay. Mrs. Rosie, her boss, always let her have the leftover soup at the end of her shift. When Maya finally arrived at Rosie's diner, the familiar smell of coffee and bacon grease greeted her like an old friend. The diner wasn't fancy, just red vinyl booths, a long counter with spinning stools, and windows that overlooked a busy street. But it was warm and the regular customers were kind, and that was enough. "Morning, sweetheart," Mrs. Rosie called from behind the counter. She was a round woman with gray hair and the biggest heart Maya had ever known. "You're early today." "Only by 5 minutes, Mrs. Rosie," Maya said with a small smile, tying her apron around her waist. "Every minute counts, honey. That's what separates the good workers from the great ones." Mrs. Rosie winked. "Table 4 needs coffee." "Hop to it." Maya grabbed the coffee pot and went to work. The morning rush was steady but manageable. Businessmen gulped down their coffee while checking their phones. A construction crew laughed loudly over their pancakes. A young couple shared a milkshake, lost in each other's eyes. Maya served them all with a smile, even though her feet already hurt in her cheap shoes. Around noon, things slowed down. Maya was wiping down table 6 when the bell above the door chimed. That's when she walked in. The old Korean woman was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, but she carried herself like a queen. She wore an elegant navy blue dress that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. Her silver hair was styled perfectly. Heavy gold jewelry adorned her neck and wrists. But it was her eyes that caught Maya's attention. They were sharp, intelligent, and seemed to see right through you. Behind her walked 2 large men in dark suits. They looked like bodyguards from a movie, stone-faced, alert, their eyes constantly scanning the room. Maya felt a shiver run down her spine. "Good afternoon," Maya said politely, walking over with menus. "Just the 3 of you today?" The old woman studied Maya for a long moment. Then she spoke in accented English, her voice strong despite her age. "Just me. They will stand." "Oh, okay," Maya said, slightly confused. "Who are these people?" "Right this way, ma'am." She led the woman to a booth by the window. The 2 bodyguards positioned themselves nearby, hands clasped in front of them, watching everything. "Can I start you off with something to drink?" Maya asked, her pen ready. "Green tea." "Hot. And your menu?" I will look. Coming right up. As Maya walked away, she felt the woman's eyes following her. It wasn't a mean look, exactly. More like curiosity? Maya shook off the weird feeling and went to prepare the tea. Mrs. Rosie noticed the fancy guests. Who's the VIP? She whispered to Maya. No idea, Maya whispered back. But those guys with her look serious. Like, really serious. Well, give her the special treatment. Can't hurt to make a good impression. Maya nodded and carefully prepared the tea, making sure everything was perfect. When she brought it to the table, the old woman was staring out the window, lost in thought. Here's your tea, ma'am, Maya said gently, not wanting to startle her. The woman turned and looked at the tea, then at Maya. You made this yourself? Yes, ma'am. Is something wrong? No. You have careful hands. I can tell. The woman took a sip and nodded approvingly. Good. Very good. What is your name, child? Maya, ma'am. Maya Thompson. Maya, the woman repeated, as if tasting the name. A beautiful name. I am Mrs. Park. Mrs. Seoyeon Park. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Park. Are you ready to order, or do you need more time? Mrs. Park ordered a simple meal, vegetable soup and rice, but the way she spoke, with such dignity and precision, made even that seem important. As Maya worked through the afternoon, she noticed Mrs. Park watching her. Not in a creepy way, but with interest. Every time Maya passed by, Mrs. Park's eyes would follow her. It made Maya a little nervous, but also curious. Who is this woman? Why was she here? And why did she seem so interested in a nobody waitress? Around 2 o'clock, the diner was almost empty. Just Mrs. Park, an elderly man reading a newspaper at the counter, and a teenage kid playing on his phone in a corner booth. That's when the bell chimed again. 3 men walked in. They were young, maybe late 20s, dressed in dark clothes. Something about them felt wrong immediately. The air in the diner seemed to change, like when a storm is about to hit. Maya noticed Mrs. Park's bodyguards tense up. Their hands moved slightly toward their jackets. The 3 men didn't sit down. They didn't ask for menus. They just stood by the door, looking around the room. Then their eyes landed on Mrs. Park. One of them smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Maya felt her stomach drop. Can I help you, gentlemen? She asked, her voice shaky. The man who'd smiled ignored her completely. He started walking toward Mrs. Park's booth, his 2 friends following behind. Mrs. Park didn't move. She sat perfectly still, her teacup raised halfway to her lips, watching them approach with those sharp eyes. Mrs. Park, the man said in accented English. What a surprise to find you here. All alone. Well, almost alone. He glanced at the bodyguards with amusement. This is a public place, Mrs. Park said calmly. I can eat where I choose. Of course, the man said, his voice dripping with fake politeness. But your son, he might not be happy to know you're here. Without proper protection, anything could happen. The threat hung in the air like poison. Maya's hands were trembling. She didn't understand what was happening, but she knew it was dangerous. She should call the police. She should run. She should do something. But her feet wouldn't move. My son knows where I am, Mrs. Park said, her voice steady. And he knows I do not fear small men who make big threats. The man's smile disappeared. His face turned cold, angry. Small men, he repeated quietly. Then he laughed, but it was an ugly sound. You always had too much pride, old woman. That's going to be your downfall. He reached into his jacket. Everything happened at once. The bodyguards moved forward, reaching for their own weapons. The man pulled out a knife, long, curved, deadly. His friends blocked the bodyguard's path, grappling with them. Tables crashed. The elderly man at the counter scrambled for the exit. The teenager dubbed behind his booth. Mrs. Rosie screamed from the kitchen doorway. And the man with the knife lunged toward Mrs. Park. That's when Maya's body took over. She didn't think about her safety. She didn't think about the consequences. She just thought, that old woman is going to die. And Maya couldn't let that happen. She threw herself forward, crashing into Mrs. Park just as the knife sliced through the air. They hit the floor hard, Maya's shoulder screaming in pain as she twisted to protect the older woman's fragile body. The attacker stumbled, shocked that he'd missed. Maya looked up at him, her breath coming in gasps, her body covering Mrs. Park like a shield. The man's eyes locked onto hers. He raised the knife again, this time pointing it at Maya. You shouldn't have done that, girl, he hissed. Maya couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This was it. This was how she died. On the floor of a diner, protecting a stranger. Then the door exploded open. A figure stepped inside, tall, dressed in an expensive black suit, his presence filling the entire room like a thunder. The man who entered wasn't just tall, he was commanding. Everything about him screamed power and danger. His black suit was perfectly tailored, probably worth more than Maya made in 6 months. His dark hair was styled back, revealing a face that was handsome but cold like carved ice. But it was his eyes that made Maya's breath catch. They were dark, intense, and absolutely furious. "Touch her, and you won't leave this building alive," he said again, his voice low and deadly calm. The attacker with the knife froze. His hand started shaking. "And Mr. Park," he stammered, backing away from Maya. "We didn't know, we weren't told." Silence. That single word cut through the air like a whip. The attacker's mouth snapped shut. Behind the man in the black suit, more men poured into the diner. At least 8 of them, all wearing dark suits, all looking like they could break someone in half without breaking a sweat. They surrounded the 3 attackers and Mrs. Park's struggling bodyguards. The fight stopped immediately. Everyone froze. The man in the black suit walked forward slowly, his expensive shoes clicking on the diner floor. He didn't look at the attackers. He didn't look at his men. His eyes were fixed on the floor where Maya still covered his mother's body. "Mother," he said, and his voice changed completely. The coldness melted into concern. "Are you hurt?" Maya carefully moved aside, her whole body trembling. Mrs. Park sat up slowly, adjusting her dress with dignity, even though she'd just been knocked to the floor. "I am fine, Jin-Woo," she said calmly. "Thanks to this brave young woman." Jin-Woo Park's eyes finally landed on Maya. She was still on her knees, breathing hard, her uniform dirty from the floor. For a moment, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe? Curiosity? Maya couldn't tell. Then he looked away, back to the attackers. "Take them," he said simply. His men moved like a well-oiled machine. They grabbed the 3 attackers, who didn't even try to resist. The man with the knife was practically crying now. "Please, Mr. Park, we were just following orders." "I don't care whose orders you followed," Jin-Woo said, his voice back to ice. "You threatened my mother. You pulled a weapon in a public place. You endangered innocent people." His eyes flickered to Maya for just a second. "The consequences will be severe. Please, get them out of my sight." The men dragged the attackers toward the door. Their begging faded as they were pulled outside and shoved into black SUVs parked on the street. Maya watched all of this from the floor, her mind spinning. What was happening? Who were these people? This wasn't normal. This wasn't how normal people handled things. "You," Jin-Woo said suddenly, and Maya jumped. He was looking at her now, really looking at her. "Stand up." Maya scrambled to her feet, her legs shaky. She probably looked terrible, her ponytail half undone, her apron crooked, her hands dirty. She felt like a mess next to these polished, powerful people. "What is your name?" he asked. Maya, sir." "Maya Thompson." "Maya Thompson," he repeated, like he was memorizing it. "You threw yourself in front of my mother." "Why?" I don't know," Maya said honestly. "I just saw the knife and I moved. I couldn't just watch someone get hurt." Something changed in Jin-Woo's eyes. Maya couldn't read it, but it felt important. "Most people would have run," he said quietly. "I'm not most people, I guess," Maya whispered. Mrs. Park stood up, brushing off her expensive dress. She walked over to Maya and did something completely unexpected. She took Maya's dirty, trembling hands in her own perfectly manicured ones. "Child," she said softly, "you saved my life. You didn't know me. You didn't know if I was worth saving. But you put your own life in danger for a stranger." Her eyes were wet with tears. "That kind of courage, that kind of heart, it is rare. So very rare." "I just did what anyone should do," Maya said, uncomfortable with the attention. "No," Mrs. Park said firmly. "Most people would not. Most people think only of themselves. But you." She looked at her son. "Jin-Woo, this girl is special." Jin-Woo nodded slowly. "She will be compensated for her bravery." "Compensated?" Mrs. Park looked almost offended. "My son, this young woman saved your mother's life. Money is not enough." "Mother, what do you suggest?" Mrs. Park looked at Maya for a long moment, studying her face like she was reading a book. Then she smiled, a real, warm smile that transformed her whole face. "I will think on it," she said mysteriously. "But first, let us make sure she is truly unharmed." "I'm fine, really," Maya insisted, even though her shoulder throbbed where she'd hit the floor. "Nonsense," Mrs. Park said. "Jin-Woo, have Dr. Kim come to the house. This child will be examined properly." "Wait, what? The house?" Maya backed up a step. No, I can't. I have to work, and Your shift is over, Mrs. Park said gently but firmly. Your employer will be compensated for your lost hours. You will come with us, let the doctor check you, and we will talk. Maya looked at Mrs. Rosie, who had been watching everything from behind the counter with wide eyes. Mrs. Rosie just nodded encouragingly. Go on, honey, she said. These folks want to thank you properly. Let them. Maya wanted to argue. This was crazy. These people were clearly involved in something dangerous, maybe illegal. She should say no. She should run. But Mrs. Park's hand was still holding hers, warm and gentle. And despite everything that had just happened, Maya felt safe with her. Okay, Maya heard herself say. Just for a little while. Mrs. Park beamed. Wonderful. Jin-Woo, let us go. The SUV was the nicest vehicle Maya had ever been inside. The seats were soft leather that probably cost more than her entire apartment. Everything was clean and shiny. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. Maya sat next to Mrs. Park in the back seat. Jin-Woo sat in the front passenger seat, making phone calls in rapid Korean. Maya couldn't understand the words, but she could tell from his tone that he was giving orders, making arrangements, probably dealing with the aftermath of what had happened at the diner. Do not mind him, Mrs. Park said, patting Maya's hand. He is always working. Always serious. He forgets to smile. What does he do? Maya asked carefully. Mrs. Park's eyes twinkled with amusement. He is a businessman. He handles many things. That wasn't really an answer, but Maya didn't push. She had a feeling she didn't really want to know the details. They drove through the city, leaving Maya's familiar neighborhood behind. The buildings got nicer. The streets got cleaner. They passed through an area where houses had actual yards and gates. Finally, they turned down a long private road. Maya's jaw dropped. At the end of the road sat a mansion. And not just any mansion, but something that looked like it belonged in a movie. It was huge, modern, with walls of glass and clean white stone. Beautiful gardens surrounded it. A fountain bubbled in the circular driveway. You live here? Maya breathed. Mrs. Park chuckled. It is home. Too big for one old woman, but Jin-Woo insists on security and space. The SUV stopped in front of the main entrance. Jin-Woo got out first, then came around to open the door for his mother. He offered his hand to help her out, and Maya saw genuine care in the gesture. When Maya climbed out, she felt completely out of place. Her cheap uniform and worn shoes looked ridiculous against this backdrop of wealth. Inside was even more impressive. The foyer had marble floors, a crystal chandelier, and artwork that looked like it belonged in a museum. Servants moved quietly through the space, nodding respectfully as Mrs. Park passed. This way, child, Mrs. Park said, leading Maya to a sitting room that was bigger than Maya's entire apartment. Dr. Kim arrived within 20 minutes. A professional woman in her 40s who examined Maya thoroughly despite Maya's protests that she was fine. Minor bruising on the shoulder, Dr. Kim announced. Nothing serious, but ice it tonight and take these pain relievers if needed. She handed Maya a bottle of pills. You're very lucky. She is not lucky, Mrs. Park corrected. She is brave. There is a difference. After the doctor left, a servant brought tea and small elegant cakes. Maya perched on the edge of an expensive-looking sofa, afraid to touch anything. Jin-Woo stood by the window, his phone finally silent in his hand. He was watching Maya with that unreadable expression again. You still haven't explained why you did it, he said suddenly. You could have died. Maya looked down at her tea. My mom always told me that doing the right thing isn't about whether it's safe. It's about whether it's right. I saw someone in danger. I had to help. Your mother sounds wise, Mrs. Park said softly. She must be very proud of you. Maya's throat tightened. She passed away. 3 years ago. Cancer. The room went quiet. I am sorry, Mrs. Park said, and she sounded like she truly meant it. And your father? Never knew him. It was just me and Mom. Maya wiped her eyes quickly. Sorry, I don't know why I'm telling you this. Because grief needs to be shared, Mrs. Park said gently. And because you have been alone too long, I think. I can see it in your eyes. The loneliness. Maya looked up, surprised. How could this stranger see so much? Mrs. Park stood up and walked to the window where her son stood. She spoke to him in Korean, too quietly for Maya to hear. Jin-Woo responded, also in Korean, his brow furrowed. They seemed to be discussing something important. Finally, Mrs. Park turned back to Maya with a decisive look. Maya Thompson, she said formally, I am an old woman. I do not have many years left. Mother, Jin-Woo started. Hush. It is truth. She waved him off. I do not have many years, and I have spent them watching people. I know character when I see it. You have a good heart. A pure soul. The kind of person who is almost extinct in this world we live in. Thank you, Maya said, confused about where this was going. Mrs. Park smiled. I am making you an offer. Come work for me. Maya blinked. Work for you? Like, as a maid? No. As my companion. I am lonely in this big house. Jin-Woo is always busy with business. I want someone to talk to spend time with. Someone real. She gestured around the mansion. Everyone here is paid to be nice to me. But you risked your life for me when you thought I was just a stranger in a diner. That cannot be bought. I don't know what to say. The pay will be generous. Much more than you make at the diner. You will live here, in the guest house. You will have your own space. And all I ask is that you spend time with me, talk with me, eat with me, keep me company. It sounded too good to be true. Maya's suspicious mind immediately started asking questions. What was the catch? Why would this wealthy woman want a nobody waitress as a companion? As if reading her thoughts, Mrs. Park added, I know this sounds strange. But when you reach my age, you realize that money and power mean nothing if you have no one genuine to share your life with. I see something in you, Maya. Something I have not seen in a very long time. I would like to get to know you better. Maya looked at Jin-Woo, who was watching the whole exchange with an expression she couldn't read. What do you think? She asked him. He seemed surprised that she'd asked his opinion. What I think doesn't matter. If my mother wants you here, then you will be here. But do you trust me? Maya pressed. I'm just some random person who happened to be working today. For all you know, I could be. You are not, Jin-Woo interrupted. I already had you investigated. You what? In the car. I made calls. I know everything about you now. Maya Thompson, age 24, worked at Rosie's Diner for 3 years. No criminal record. No debts except student loans you're slowly paying off. No family, no boyfriend. He listed the facts like he was reading a file. You are exactly who you appear to be. Someone trying to survive in a difficult world. Maya should have been angry about the invasion of privacy. But somehow, the thorough investigation made her feel safer? If they'd checked her background and still wanted her here, maybe this was legitimate. Can I think about it? Maya asked. This is all happening so fast. Of course, Mrs. Park said kindly. Take the night. Go home. Consider it carefully. But know this, the offer is genuine, and it comes from my heart. A servant appeared to drive Maya home. As she stood to leave, Mrs. Park hugged her. A real, warm embrace that reminded Maya so much of her own mother that tears sprang to her eyes. Thank you again for saving me, dear child, Mrs. Park whispered. Whatever you decide, you will always be welcome in my home. Maya sat in her tiny apartment, staring at the business card Jin-Woo had given her before she left. It was simple, elegant, with just a phone number embossed in gold. Her mind raced. This was crazy, right? Moving into a mansion to be a companion to a woman she'd just met? A woman whose son was clearly involved in something dangerous? But then again, what did she have here? A job that barely paid her bills. An apartment that was falling apart. No family. No close friends. Just loneliness and struggle, day after day. Mrs. Park had seen that somehow. The loneliness. Maya picked up her phone and dialed the number on the card. Jin-Woo answered on the first ring. Have you decided? I have questions first, Maya said. What you do, your business, is it illegal? There was a pause. Then, I operate in gray areas. But I have rules. No drugs. No trafficking. I protect what is mine and handle those who threaten my family. So, like the mafia? Like a family business with complicated relationships, he said carefully. Will you be in danger? Not if you stay close to the house and follow basic security protocols. My mother's safety is my highest priority. Anyone protecting her is also protected. Maya took a deep breath. Okay, one more question. Why does your mother really want me there? Just loneliness. Another pause. My mother, she lost a daughter. My sister. Many years ago. She has never recovered from that loss. When she looks at you, I think she sees a chance to fill that empty space. I cannot promise this will not be complicated. At least he was honest. I'll do it, Maya heard herself say. I'll take the job. Good. I will send a car tomorrow morning at 9 to collect your belongings. That fast. My mother does not like to wait. And neither do I. He hung up. Maya looked around her tiny apartment, at the peeling paint, the broken heater, the life she was about to leave behind. She had no idea that this decision would change everything. That in 1 week, Mrs. Park would make an announcement that would shock everyone. And that in 2 weeks, Maya would be engaged to the most dangerous man in the city. Maya stood in the guest house behind the Park mansion, looking around in disbelief. This wasn't just a guest house. It was nicer than any place she'd ever dreamed of living. The main room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a beautiful garden with cherry blossom trees. The furniture was modern and comfortable, a plush sofa, a flat-screen TV, bookshelves already filled with books. The bedroom had a bed so soft Maya had actually laughed when she first sat on it. The bathroom had a tub big enough to swim in and one of those fancy showers with jets coming from every direction. "This is insane," Maya whispered to herself for the 100th time. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Jin-Woo standing there in another one of his perfect suits, this one dark gray. "My mother requests your presence for lunch," he said formally. "In 30 minutes. "Oh, okay, I'll just—" Maya looked down at her jeans and sweater. "Should I change into something nicer?" Jin-Woo's eyes traveled over her outfit. "You look fine. My mother prefers comfort over formality when in her own home." He turned to leave, then paused. "Maya." "Yes, thank you for accepting her offer. She has been happier this past week than I've seen her in years. Just knowing you were coming." Before Maya could respond, he was gone, walking back toward the main house with those confident strides. Maya changed into a simple dress anyway, one of the few nice things she owned, and made her way to the main house. A kind servant named Mrs. Chun showed her to a beautiful dining room where Mrs. Park was already seated at a table set with fine china and crystal glasses. "Maya, darling." Mrs. Park's face lit up like sunshine. "Come, sit next to me. How do you like your new home?" "It's beautiful, Mrs. Park." "Really, it's too much." "Nonsense. Nothing is too much for you. Now we eat." The lunch was delicious, Korean dishes that Mrs. Park patiently explained to Maya, teaching her the names and how to eat them properly. They talked and laughed, and Maya felt something warm growing in her chest. Something she hadn't felt in years. She felt like she belonged. Over the next few days, Maya fell into a routine. She would have breakfast with Mrs. Park, then they would walk in the gardens together. Mrs. Park told stories about Korea, about her childhood, about the daughter she had lost to illness when she was only 16. "She was bright and kind like you," Mrs. Park said one afternoon as they sat by the fountain. "She wanted to be a teacher, to help children, but cancer took her before she could achieve her dreams." "I'm so sorry," Maya said softly, taking the old woman's hand. "It was many years ago, but the pain never fully leaves. That is why Jin-Woo is so protective. He could not save his sister, so now he tries to protect everyone else he loves with all his power and resources." Maya was starting to understand the complicated man who ran this household. He seemed cold and dangerous on the surface, but underneath, he was someone who had lost too much and was terrified of losing more. She saw him rarely. He was always working, making calls, having meetings in his office. But sometimes she would catch him watching her and his mother from a window, and something in his expression looked almost peaceful. On the 5th day, something changed. Maya was reading in the garden when Jin-Woo appeared, which was unusual. He normally avoided the gardens during the day. "Walk with me," he said abruptly. Maya closed her book and stood curious. They walked in silence for a few minutes, following a path between rose bushes. "You make her happy," Jin-Woo said finally. "In just 5 days, you have brought light back into her eyes. I did not think that was possible anymore." "She makes me happy too," Maya admitted. "I haven't felt this peaceful in years. Not since my mom died." Jin-Woo nodded. "I want you to understand something. My world is dangerous. The people I deal with do not play by normal rules. What happened at the diner, that could happen again." Maya's stomach tightened. "Are you saying I should leave?" "No." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "I am saying you need to be prepared. You need to understand what you have stepped into by being here. My mother is the most important person in my life. Anyone close to her becomes a target. Then why did you let her hire me? Because she wants you here. And what she wants, I give her." His jaw tightened. "But I will also protect you. My men will guard this property at all times. You do not leave without security. You do not speak to anyone about what you see or hear in this house." "Understood." "Understood," Maya whispered. Something in his eyes softened slightly. You are not a prisoner, Maya, but you are now part of this family. And family is everything. He walked away, leaving Maya standing in the garden with her heart pounding. Mrs. Park announced on the 7th day that she was hosting a dinner party. Just a small gathering, she said cheerfully while they had tea. Some old friends, some business associates of Jin-Woo's. I want you there, Maya. I want to introduce you to everyone. Maya felt panic rising. Mrs. Park, I don't think I should. I mean, I'm just your companion. Wouldn't it be weird if… You are family now, Mrs. Park said firmly. And family attends dinners. Besides, I need you there. These events are always so boring and full of fake smiles. You will keep me grounded. Keep me real. Maya couldn't argue with that. Mrs. Park insisted on taking Maya shopping for a proper dress. They went to boutiques where everything cost more than Maya used to make in a month. Maya tried to protest, but Mrs. Park just waved her hand dismissively. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, she said. Let me spoil you. It brings me joy. They settled on a simple but elegant navy blue dress that made Maya feel like a princess. Mrs. Park also insisted on jewelry, a delicate gold necklace and matching earrings. Beautiful, Mrs. Park declared. My daughter would have loved this dress. The night of the dinner party, Maya was so nervous she could barely breathe. The main house was transformed with flowers and candles everywhere. Servants moved efficiently, preparing food and setting tables. Guests began arriving at 7. Rich-looking couples in expensive clothes. Men who looked like they could buy and sell companies before breakfast. Women dripping in diamonds and designer labels. Maya felt completely out of place. She stood next to Mrs. Park, smiling politely and shaking hands as people were introduced. Most of them looked at Maya with confusion. Who was this young black woman standing next to the Park family matriarch like she belonged there? Jin-Woo arrived fashionably late, looking devastating in a black tuxedo. Several women at the party watched him with hungry eyes, but he ignored them all. He greeted his mother with a kiss on the cheek, then nodded politely to Maya. You look nice, he said simply. Maya nearly choked. That was the closest thing to a compliment she'd ever heard from him. Dinner was served in the grand dining room. Maya was seated next to Mrs. Park, of course, which put her in a position of honor that clearly confused the other guests. She could hear them whispering when they thought she wasn't listening. Who is that girl? Some kind of servant, I think. Why is she sitting at the main table? Maybe she's a distant relative? Maya tried to ignore the whispers and focus on her food, which was delicious even though her nervous stomach could barely handle it. Halfway through dinner, Mrs. Park stood up and gently tapped her glass with a spoon. The room fell silent. My dear friends, she began, her voice strong and clear. Thank you for joining us tonight. I have asked you here not just for a meal, but to share some important news. Maya's heart started pounding. What was happening? Mrs. Park reached out and took Maya's hand, pulling her to stand beside her. This young woman, Mrs. Park continued, saved my life 1 week ago. She threw herself between me and a knife without hesitation, without knowing who I was, without asking for anything in return. She risked her own life for a complete stranger. The room was completely silent now, everyone staring. In the days since then, Mrs. Park went on, Maya has brought joy back into my home. She has filled the empty space in my heart left by my precious daughter. She is kind, genuine, brave, and good. Everything that is rare and valuable in this world. Maya squeezed Mrs. Park's hand, sensing something big was coming. Mrs. Park turned to look at her son, who sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. Jin-Woo, my son, you are a good man. A strong man. But you are alone. You work too hard. You trust no one. You have built walls around your heart that I fear may never come down. Mother, Jin-Woo's voice held a warning. But Mrs. Park ignored it. She looked back at Maya, then at the room full of guests. I am an old woman. I do not have many years left on this earth. Before I die, I want to see my son happy. I want to see him with someone who will love him for who he is, not what he has. Someone with a good heart. Someone brave and true. Maya's stomach dropped. No, she wasn't going to. Therefore, Mrs. Park announced loudly, I am claiming Maya Thompson as my daughter-in-law. She will marry my son. The room exploded. Guests gasped and started talking all at once. Someone dropped a glass, and it shattered on the floor. A woman actually shouted, What? But Maya couldn't hear any of it over the roaring in her own ears. She stared at Mrs. Park in shock. What? No, Mrs. Park, you can't just. I can and I have, Mrs. Park said with satisfaction. Maya turned to look at Jin-Woo, expecting him to be furious, to shut this down immediately. But he was just sitting there, perfectly calm, watching Maya with those dark, unreadable eyes. Jin-Woo, Maya said desperately. Tell her this is crazy. We barely know each other. You can't possibly. Jin-Woo stood up slowly. The room fell silent again, everyone waiting to see what the powerful Park Jin-Woo would say. He walked around the table until he stood in front of Maya. He was so tall she had to tilt her head back to look at him. My mother has made her decision, he said quietly. And I do not go against my mother's wishes. But, Maya couldn't form words. This was insane. Jin-Woo turned to address the room. You have heard my mother's announcement. Maya Thompson will become my wife. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects this family. Anyone who harms her will answer to me personally. His voice was ice-cold, and the threat was crystal clear. The guests nodded quickly, murmuring their congratulations, even though most of them looked completely bewildered. Jin-Woo looked back at Maya. We will discuss the details privately later. For now, please smile. You are being watched. Maya's legs felt like water. Her mind was spinning. How had her life gone from serving coffee at a diner to being announced as the future wife of a Korean mafia boss in just 1 week? Mrs. Park hugged her tightly. Do not look so frightened, dear child, she whispered. I know this seems sudden, but trust me, I see things clearly. You and my son, you are meant for each other. You just do not know it yet. I think I'm going to faint, Maya whispered back. Nonsense. You are strong. You saved my life, remember? You can handle one dinner party. But as Maya looked around at the shocked faces, the whispering guests, and Jin-Woo's unreadable expression, she wasn't so sure. This wasn't just a dinner party anymore. This was the moment her entire life changed forever. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice asked, what have I gotten myself into? The guests finally left around midnight. Maya had smiled until her face hurt, accepted congratulations from people she didn't know, and pretended everything was normal when nothing about this situation was normal. As soon as the last guest was gone, Maya excused herself and practically ran back to the guest house. She slammed the door, leaned against it, and tried to catch her breath. A knock came 5 minutes later. Maya knew who it was before she opened the door. Jin-Woo stood there, his tuxedo jacket gone, his tie loosened, looking almost human for once. We need to talk, he said. You think? Maya shot back, her fear turning to anger. Your mother just announced to a room full of people that we're getting married. Don't I get a say in this? May I come in? Maya stepped aside, and Jin-Woo entered the guest house. He looked around at her space, then turned to face her. I know you are angry. Angry? I'm terrified. I don't even know you. And now everyone thinks we're engaged. We are engaged, Jin-Woo said calmly. My mother has declared it. In my world, that is binding. Well, I'm not from your world, Maya shouted. I'm just a waitress who made one stupid, impulsive decision to save someone's life, and now my entire future is being decided by people I barely know. Jin-Woo was quiet for a moment. Then he said something Maya didn't expect. You are right. This is not fair to you. You saved my mother, and instead of simple gratitude, you have been pulled into our complicated world without warning. Maya blinked. An apology? From him? However, he continued, what is done is done. The announcement has been made. In my world, backing out now would be seen as weakness. It would make my mother look foolish. It would make you a target. A target? My enemies will think you are important to me now. They will try to use you to get to me. The only way to keep you truly safe is to follow through with this engagement. Maya sank onto the sofa, her head in her hands. This is a nightmare. Jin-Woo surprised her by sitting down next to her. Not close, but not far either. It does not have to be, he said quietly. Listen to me. We will be engaged for 6 months. A proper courtship period. During that time, you will be protected, provided for, safe. If at the end of 6 months you want to leave, I will help you disappear. New identity, new city, money to start over. My mother will be sad, but I will help her understand. Maya looked up at him. You would do that? Yes. I do not force women into marriage. But I also cannot publicly refuse my mother without serious consequences. This way, everyone saves face, and you get time to decide what you really want. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than being trapped forever. And if I stay? Maya asked quietly. If I actually go through with marrying you? Jin-Woo's dark eyes met hers. Then you would have everything you could ever want. Protection. security, a family. My mother adores you already. And I. He paused. I would treat you with respect. I would never harm you. I would give you freedom within reason. But would you love me? The question hung in the air between them. I do not know, Jin-Woo said honestly. I have not allowed myself to love anyone except my mother in many years. It is a weakness I cannot afford. But perhaps, he looked away. Perhaps things could change. Given time. Maya took a shaky breath. 6 months. She could survive 6 months. And then she could decide, stay in this strange, dangerous, luxurious world, or run back to her old life. Okay, she whispered. 6 months. But I have conditions. Name them. I want to keep seeing Mrs. Park every day. She's the reason I'm here, and I care about her. Agreed. I want my own space. I'm not moving into your bedroom, or anything like that. You will keep the guest house. I would not presume otherwise. And I want honesty. If something dangerous is happening, if I'm in real danger, I want to know. Don't hide things from me. Jin-Woo considered this. That is a difficult promise. Sometimes not knowing is safer. I don't care. I'm risking my life just by being here. I deserve to know the truth. Finally, Jin-Woo nodded. Very well. Honesty. As much as I can give. He stood up and extended his hand. Do we have an agreement? Maya looked at his hand. This was crazy. Absolutely insane. But what choice did she really have now? She took his hand and shook it. 6 months, she said. Then I decide. 6 months, he agreed. As Jin-Woo left, Maya sat alone in her beautiful guest house, wondering what she had just agreed to. Outside her window, she could see guards patrolling the property. Her new reality. She was engaged to a man she barely knew. A dangerous man. A man who might never love her. But she was also safe for the first time in years. And she had a family again, even if it was the strangest family in the world. Maya looked at the clock. It was after 1 a.m. 24 hours ago, her biggest worry was paying her electric bill. Now she was engaged to a mafia boss. Life was strange indeed. 3 months later, Maya sat in the garden, a book forgotten in her lap, watching cherry blossom petals drift through the air like pink snow. 3 months had passed since that shocking dinner party announcement, and her life had become something she never could have imagined. The engagement ring on her finger caught the sunlight, a simple but stunning diamond that Jin-Woo had presented to her the week after his mother's announcement. He had done it privately, no audience, no pressure. This makes it official, he had said quietly. But remember, 6 months, then you choose. 3 months down. 3 months to go. Maya twisted the ring around her finger, thinking about how much had changed. She had learned to navigate this world of wealth and danger. She had learned which guards were friendly, and which were all business. She had learned to spot when something dangerous was happening. The subtle tension in Jin-Woo's shoulders, the increase in security patrols, the hushed phone calls in Korean. And she had learned about the man she was supposedly going to marry. Jin-Woo was still cold and controlled most of the time, but Maya had started to see cracks in his armor. Like the way he always made sure his mother took her medicine. Or how he personally checked on Maya's safety every night before going to bed. A quick knock on her door and a simple, "Are you well?" Or the time 2 weeks ago when Maya had caught a cold, and Jin-Woo had appeared at her guest house with soup he had made himself. Not a servant, but him, standing in the kitchen cooking because his mother insisted homemade soup was the only real cure. "I did not know you could cook," Maya had said, surprised. "There are many things you do not know about me," he had replied. Yet, that word, yet, had stayed with Maya for days. "Daydreaming again, dear?" Maya looked up to find Mrs. Park approaching, her elegant frame casting a shadow over the bench. "Just thinking," Maya said with a smile. Mrs. Park sat down beside her, taking Maya's hand and examining the engagement ring with satisfaction. "Beautiful. Jin-Woo has good taste." "Mrs. Park," Maya said carefully, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, child. Anything. Why did you really do this? The engagement announcement, I mean. Was it just because I saved your life?" Mrs. Park was quiet for a moment, watching the cherry blossoms fall. "I am dying, Maya." Maya's heart stopped. "What?" "Cancer. Like my daughter. It has returned, and this time, the doctors say there is nothing they can do. I have perhaps 6 months. Maybe less." Tears sprang to Maya's eyes. "No. No, you can't. Hush, child. We all die. I have lived a long life, and I am not afraid." Mrs. Park squeezed Maya's hand. But I could not leave this world without securing my son's future. Jin-Woo has been alone for so long. He has forgotten how to feel, how to love, how to trust. When I saw you throw yourself in front of that knife, no hesitation, no calculation, just pure goodness, I knew. I knew you were the one who could save him. Save him from what? From himself. From loneliness. From becoming so cold and hard that nothing can touch him anymore. Mrs. Park's eyes were wet with tears now. I do not have time to wait for him to find love naturally. I do not have time to watch them date and court properly. So I pushed. I forced the issue. And I am sorry if that was selfish. Maya threw her arms around the old woman, holding her tight. It wasn't selfish. You're a mother protecting her son. I understand. Do you love him? Mrs. Park asked softly. Even a little? Maya pulled back, wiping her eyes. Did she? She thought about Jin-Woo's rare smiles. The way he listened when she talked, really listened. How safe she felt knowing he was there. How her heart beat a little faster when he entered a room. I don't know, Maya admitted. But I care about him. More than I expected to. Mrs. Park smiled. That is enough. Love can grow from caring. Just give it time. But time was something they were running out of. Maya was in the main house with Mrs. Park, teaching her how to play a card game Maya's mother had taught her, when the alarms went off. Red lights flashed. A siren blared. Mrs. Park's face went pale. What's happening? Maya shouted over the noise. Before Mrs. Park could answer, Jin-Woo burst into the room with 6 armed guards. We are under attack, he said, his voice deadly calm. A rival group. They have breached the outer perimeter. Mother, Maya, come with me now. They ran through hallways Maya had never seen before, downstairs, through a hidden door that led to an underground safe room. It was large, comfortable, clearly designed for exactly this situation. Stay here, Jin-Woo commanded. Do not open this door for anyone but me. The walls are reinforced steel. You are safe. What about you? Maya grabbed his arm without thinking. Jin-Woo looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. Something flickered in his eyes. I will handle this. I always do. Jin-Woo, Mrs. Park started. I will return, Mother. I promise. He left, and the heavy door sealed behind him with a terrifying finality. Maya and Mrs. Park sat in the safe room, holding each other, listening to muffled sounds from above. Gunshots. Shouting. The sounds of violence that made Maya's blood run cold. This is my fault, Maya whispered. If I hadn't. No, Mrs. Park said firmly. This world existed long before you arrived. These enemies existed long before you. You are not to blame for the choices of violent men. Hours passed. Or maybe just minutes, Maya couldn't tell. Time felt strange and wrong. Finally, the door opened. Jin-Woo stood there, his suit torn, blood on his face from a cut above his eye, but alive. Alive. It is over, he said. They are gone. Dealt with. Maya ran to him before she could stop herself, throwing her arms around him. You're hurt. Jin-Woo stiffened in surprise, clearly not used to being hugged. But after a moment, his arms came up slowly and wrapped around her. I am fine, he said softly. Just a scratch. Mrs. Park watched them with knowing eyes and a small smile. 1 month before Maya's deadline to decide, Jin-Woo asked her to have dinner with him. Just the 2 of them. Not his mother. Not the servants. Just them. They ate on the terrace under the stars, a meal Jin-Woo had prepared himself. Simple Korean dishes that reminded Maya of the meals Mrs. Park had taught her to love. You have been here almost 6 months, Jin-Woo said, setting down his chopsticks. Soon you must make your choice. Stay or go. Maya's heart pounded. I know. Before you decide, I need to tell you something. I need to be honest with you, as I promised. Okay. Jin-Woo looked uncomfortable, like he was about to do something painful. When my mother first announced our engagement, I thought it was a terrible idea. I thought you were just some girl who got lucky, who happened to be in the right place at the right time. I agreed to go along with it only to make my mother happy. Maya nodded. She had suspected as much. But over these months, Jin-Woo continued, I have watched you. I have seen your kindness to my mother, your patience with our strange world, your courage when faced with danger. You never complain. You never ask for more than you need. You are remarkable. Jin-Woo, please let me finish. This is difficult for me. He took a breath. I have spent years building walls around my heart. I thought love was weakness. I thought caring for people only led to pain when they were taken from you. But you have been breaking down those walls without even trying. The way you laugh at my mother's stories. The way you treat the servants with respect. The way you ran to me after the attack, genuinely worried for my safety. He reached across the table and took her hand. Maya Thompson, I do not know if what I feel is love yet. I am not sure I remember what love feels like. But I know that when I think about you leaving in 1 month, my chest hurts. I know that you have become the first person I think of in the morning and the last person I think of at night. I know that somewhere in the past 5 months, you have become essential to me. Maya's eyes filled with tears. So I am asking you, Jin-Woo said quietly. Not as an arrangement, not as my mother's wish, but as a man asking a woman he cares for deeply. Will you stay? Will you truly become my wife? Maya looked at this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man and realized something. She had already made her choice. Probably weeks ago. Maybe even months ago. She had just been too scared to admit it. I'll stay, she whispered. I choose to stay. Jin-Woo's face transformed. He smiled, a real, genuine, beautiful smile that made him look 10 years younger. He stood up, walked around the table, and cupped her face in his hands. May I kiss you? He asked softly. Maya nodded, her heart soaring. The kiss was gentle, sweet, and filled with the promise of something real. Something that could grow into love, given time. When they pulled apart, Jin-Woo rested his forehead against hers. I will try, he promised. I will try to be a good husband. To be worthy of you. You already are, Maya said. You just couldn't see it. Mrs. Park lived long enough to see them married. The wedding was beautiful, a blend of Korean and American traditions, held in the garden where Maya and Mrs. Park had spent so many afternoons talking. Cherry blossoms fell like blessings as Maya walked down the aisle in her mother's simple gold locket and a stunning white dress. Jin-Woo waited at the altar, and when he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. Actual tears. From the man who never showed emotion. Mrs. Park sat in the front row, weak but radiant with joy, dabbing at her own tears. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the officiant declared. Jin-Woo pulled Maya close and kissed her deeply, and the small gathering of family and friends applauded. Mrs. Park passed away peacefully 3 weeks later, in her sleep, with Maya holding one hand and Jin-Woo holding the other. Thank you, she whispered to Maya with her last breaths. Thank you for saving us both. Maya stood in the same garden, one hand on her growing belly, watching the cherry blossoms fall. Jin-Woo came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, his hand covering hers on her stomach. What are you thinking about? He asked, kissing her temple. Your mother, Maya said softly. How she brought us together. How she saw something neither of us could see. She was wise, Jin-Woo agreed. And she was right. You did save me, Maya. From loneliness. From becoming a monster. From forgetting how to be human. Maya turned in his arms to face him. And you saved me too. From struggling alone. From having no family. You gave me a home. A real home. We saved each other, Jin-Woo said, kissing her forehead. Just as my mother planned. Maya laughed. She was sneaky. She was brilliant. They stood there together as the sun set. Two people from completely different worlds who had found each other through tragedy, courage, and the wisdom of an old woman who knew that sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is trust your heart. Maya had entered a diner to serve coffee and left engaged to a mafia boss. But she had also found love, family, and a place where she truly belonged. And that, she thought as Jin-Woo held her close, was worth every scary, crazy, unpredictable moment. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes saving someone's life means they save yours right back. And sometimes, just sometimes, a mother knows exactly what her son needs, even when he doesn't know it himself. The end. Thank you so much for following Maya and Jin-Woo's incredible journey. If you loved this story, please subscribe to this channel to support our growth. We have so many more amazing stories coming your way. Drop a comment below telling us what your favorite moment was, and don't forget to hit that like button. Until next time, remember, sometimes one brave choice can change your entire life. Stay blessed. Red Art.